The audience needs to know what is React. I've
Yeah,
looked through a lot of the assets that you sent me. I'm just super hyped about it. I love the art. The
thank you,
audience
thank
needs to
you.
know what is React. It's this
So
dueling
React
game.
is called React, spelled R-E semicolon A-C-T.
It's the most anime.
Uh,
It's the most anime
yeah.
title ever.
It is literally, the semicolon doesn't mean anything. It's just because it's anime, React. And then the subtitle is The Arts of War. Because in this game, you play as one of 8 different artists with magical superpowers. And in like classic anime fashion, they fight using these anime superpowers inspired by their art form. So you have, a calligrapher, our main cover character, who has a katana, and the katana sheath is a giant ink brush. And so she can ink her enemies with this giant ink brush, and then basically any calligraphy she writes is basically like spells. Like she can write down commands that forces people that has ink on them to do what she commands.
It's cool.
We have character like the water dancer. He, very graceful. He glides around, and as he dances, he summons these giant flying beta fish, colorful flying fish that are also aggressive. So the theme is the arts of war because it's a bunch of artists who
Literally
fight with
artists.
crazy anime powers, and it's a play on the art of war. Uh, but yeah, it's a great. I think it's a great 1 versus 1 dueling game. It's inspired
So,
by old school Yu-Gi-Oh. So if you like Yu-Gi-Oh and you don't play it anymore because it got too crazy,
because all turn one
this is the game
wins.
for you. Yeah. This is the game for you. This is
So this is very much like, because there are cards involved. You also have like a miniature. There's also a grid that you're fighting
Mhm.
on. So
It's a tactical card dueler. That's what
it's
it is.
okay. So you're moving your
Mhm.
character around, but you're also using cards and applying tokens and everything.
Yeah, so it's a hybrid between, I would say, Yu-Gi-Oh meets Summoner Wars, where
Okay,
Summoner
cool.
Wars, the cards are the creatures on the board themselves, and you have some spell cards. Whereas this game, the creatures are more like the creatures in Magic. You summon them, and then the creatures themselves can be tapped every turn, and then the rest is just cards in your hand, like Yu-Gi-Oh.
And like doing attacks and things like
Yes,
that.
yes. And
It's
the reason why we say it's very Yu-Gi-Oh inspired is because there's no mana, there's no action limit.
right.
Uh, Summoner Wars is a good example. You get to activate 3 units per turn, up to 3 units per turn.
Mm.
And every unit has a shared generic set of actions. Every unit, when you activate it, they move up to 2 spaces, and they can either melee attack or range attack. This game is not like that at all. Every single unit has their own set of abilities when you activate them. Some of them don't even move. Most of them don't actually even move. Uh, some of them are literally like, we have a giant chocobo basically. That's just like
Awesome.
like when you activate it, you can either spawn more chocobos or you can throw chocobos around. It's great.
That's super
Uh,
cool. I
yeah, so in that way, it's more Yu-Gi-Oh esque because you draw 1 card per turn, and then on your turn you can dump all your whole hand. Like turn 1, you can just dump your hand if you want to. That
right.
might be good, probably will be bad, and it's card advantage. It's in that old school TCG vein of, this game is about card advantage. This game is about knowing how and when to play your cards. The game doesn't have any guardrails, so that's the
Right.
kind of game it is.
It Are you aware of Flesh and Blood?
Oh man, I've heard of that
It's
game.
this new TCG that like is getting really popular. The local store that's near us is like a Flesh and Blood store, and it's
I've heard of
very
this game.
much like, I think it's designed by like ex like Magic folks, and it's literally card dueling. Like you have your heroes and you put equipment on them and shit, and you're basically just like going back and forth. Seems really cool, but there's no minis involved. Um, there's no minis involved. Like honestly, and I don't know if this is like a bad thing. I'm like one of those people where when I look at a board game and I see beautiful art, I'm like, okay, you've already drawn me in. Art is like the first step.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's a board, there's cards, there's other components. Okay, cool. Tactics, okay, I'm in. Minis, okay, I'm in even more. Oh, they're meeples, I'm out. Like I need to see the character represented in a way that is detailed to me, whether it be like an acrylic standee like yours, where I can see the art. And honestly, the point you make about the representation of anime characters in 3D, makes a lot of sense, especially on
I
like a
think
really
yeah,
small
the
scale.
flat art looks so much better, and these are chunky. They're like very very
Yeah,
large. The
they're
grid is only 5 by 6, so each zone is a 3 by 5, 3.5 inch zone. So
yeah,
they
like
move around. It
I
looks
get
really
it.
great.
If you were like to go on a smaller scale, I was like, would you have to go in that sort of
Really
like
good.
chibi style, like sort of like aesthetic to actually like make a 3D?
Yeah,
And that
we specifically went this route because the acrylic standees I think is the ideal way to play it. But the acrylic standees is the deluxification, right? So the base
right.
game you just play with cards, and the cards go onto the zones themselves. And
Oh, so the
now,
standees aren't on like the full. It's that's on the deluxe version.
yes, the base game. There's no way we could fit 28 unique acrylic standees into the base game at
That makes
$60.
sense.
It would just be too expensive. I think a good comparison. I think Japanime Games has a couple of games that they sell acrylic standees for. I think
Like
let's
third
see.
party, like acrylic standees for
No,
a game.
Japanime Games offers it.
Oh,
I
see,
think
the board game world is not something I am like super familiar with. Like I'm very casual when it comes to board games. So one thing I wanted to ask about React, because I know you've done this in the past, and I know you've done
mhm.
cultural consulting actually. I actually found this Reddit post that you made about cultural consultants, and it was really I was reading it and it was very flattering because you were like, oh hi, this is me. I go by Brother Ming Games. I've done panels with Sen Fung Lim and Daniel Kwan. I was like, I don't even belong here, right?
Oh my god.
But
I
like
was using you to give myself more clout,
more
please.
clout. Well, that's how we lift up each other, right? But like when you talk about like the arts, are these characters based on like traditional Asian arts? Like, is it just Chinese? Are you like
Oh,
doing
it's
different
very
cultures?
very loose definition of art.
Very
It's
loose. So
very
like
anime.
ink
It's very
brush,
anime.
like
the
calligraphy, like
Well, so the main
music.
character is pretty personal to me. The main character, the calligrapher, because my
Your
grandfather was a
grandfather's in the
calligrapher.
art, right?
Yeah, yeah. I actually, we just did a trailer. The trailer finally released, and my grandfather is in the trailer as the main character's grandfather because my grandfather was a calligrapher. He did it every day. He was very, very good. He was like our neighborhood calligrapher. He
That's
wrote
cool.
like birthday, wedding calligraphy for the neighborhood people. And he passed away. Rest in peace, grandpa. But so like his calligraphy, like we actually took pictures and scanned it, and like all the background calligraphy that's in the trailer was
That's
his.
cool.
And so that the calligrapher character is deeply rooted in Chinese calligraphy. Her actual attacks, those cards are written. The calligraphy is written by Chris Lin, the game's lead designer's mom, who is
Oh,
a calligraphy
cool.
teacher. She teaches calligraphy on the side, or I think it's not her full time. I don't think it's her full
You got
time
a
job. I
family.
might,
You got a family connection though for some of that
yeah.
art.
I don't want to misspeak. Maybe it is her full time job. She's very good. And so she actually did the calligraphy for that character, and the cards, the 3 cards that she has, are actually written in different eras of calligraphy
Mm,
in the
yeah.
style of those 3 eras, and the effects reflect that. So like her character is very
Oh,
very
that's deep.
a little deep. The other characters, they're a little bit zany. Like we have the animator. He is a JoJo's inspired character.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
He's the animator. He has a sketchbook, and he has this basically projector that he can lay on the ground, and it summons his animation rig dolls. So
Oh, that's cool.
he summons a 12 FPS Chan, a 24 FPS Kun, and then his ultimate ability when he finishes his masterpiece, when he gets his finisher, is he summons 60 FPS Sama.
Oh my god.
And he is a action programming character,
Oh
so
my
he
god.
doesn't even have a deck of cards. He actually, on his turn, he can put down animation frames on the board, and then once per turn he can animate the board. And when he animates the board, based on what animation frame he's put on a zone, that animation triggers for an adjacent standee of his. So for example, if he puts running animation on a zone and he animates that running animation frame,
Right.
then his 12 FPS Chan will be able to run into that zone.
Oh, that's so
Similarly,
funny.
if he puts down a punching animation frame, and he can animate that punching frame, and then he can have his 24 FPS Chan punch that zone. So all the characters are very zany. They play very differently. It's very anime. If
That's
you watch,
awesome.
yeah, if you watch some like these anime fighting games,
Like
There's
Guilty
a
Gear.
yeah, there's they fight with yo-yos. There's always
Yeah.
an android. Recently there was a fighting game that has a VTuber fighter in it.
Oh
Like,
God.
and one of her specials is like the screen turns into a VTubing overlay and she starts streaming and talking and
Oh.
like that attacks. It's like anime fighting games is out there.
Like
Like
a
so.
whole other. Okay, cool. So like, so it's very much not. It's very not. It's very loosely culturally coded, which is cool.
We have some
Because
very cool stuff.
when you think
The
about like
dancer
art,
is a water dancer, for example.
oh, that's neat. What do you think of like when you said like, oh, they use art in dueling? I was like, oh, like in the like Data from the Akatsuki in Naruto. Like you make your little clay things.
We have a clay
Oh,
sculptor
that's
who's
great.
inspired by kaiju.
Oh, cool.
The
You like
idea that
make
he
them?
sculpts things, yeah, and his thing, we had to scale it back down. Originally, he was actually gonna sculpt kaiju, very much so inspired by SSS Gridman.
Oh yeah.
The villain in that show just sculpts kaiju and then turns to life. But we scaled back the design to make him a little bit easier. Now he just sculpts these little clay dolls that he calls buddies.
Yeah.
But just like in Naruto, really
Stick
the
it out
buddies
though.
are just claymores. They're just bombs.
Oh, that's
He sets
awesome.
them forth and
That's
they
super
explode.
cool.
So they're all artists. Thematically, it's very anime. It's very loose with the idea of what is an artist.
That's awesome because like the last question I wanted to ask you was, when we talk about like RPG design and we talk about like representing cultures, even like fantastically in RPG design, we always talk about like cultural consultants.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a commonplace thing in the board game world? I actually just worked on my
Oh.
first board game as like a cultural consultant, and it was something that I never thought that I would do. But you see so many very explicitly culturally coded games.
that
is-
usually have very little representation.
Very
of the
little.
culture.
But
like the Great Wall just came out recently, and if you look at the credits list, there's not a single Chinese person on that team.
The Great
Uh,
Wall.
Oh yeah, it's a board game where the meeples are terracotta army, and I'm just like, God damn.
Oh, God, good God.
Yeah, great.
I'm
No. I'm thinking no. The Great Wall is actually a different board
The
game.
Great Wall's got like,
That's a different
I'm not gonna lie though, the setup of the game looks dope.
The art looks great. Not gonna lie, but
Like you build like a fortress and shit.
But you can go to the It's Awakened Realms. Wait, no. What's the one that I'm thinking of?
Oh, this actually looks kind of cool. Oh damn,
It looks good, right?
it looks good.
Actually, the Great Wall was pretty good because they actually ended up not having They had a meeple option, which I was like in favor of. I was like, nice. I know you don't like meeples, but I'm just like any board game that just decides not to only do minis. Okay, yeah. There's a board game that recently came out called Terracotta Army. It came out this year. That's the one where like if you go to the credits list and it's just like
It's like all
it's
white
all
people.
yeah. And there is a cultural consultant, I think. I'm not sure.
So it's not really a commonplace practice in board
No,
games.
it's it's become pretty common, but mostly they're just
What company?
they're
made
just
these?
there as it's like a gesture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's mostly there as a symbolic gesture. Like I think very recently, what is that one about the psychology Kickstarter? It's just
don't know.
launched. I can go to Kickstarter right now. Called Unconscious Mind, and it's about Freudian psychology.
Interesting.
And it's basically about the main character of this game is Freud, Sigmund Freud.
Oh, I'm
which
on
is-
Board Game Geek looking at Terracotta Army, and there's a product photo. It's got a little icon of a worker, and the way they did the art, the way they tried, this is so bad. When the way they tried to represent Asian eyes and like facial hair, they just made him look like a Guy Fawkes mask. They just made it look like a Guy Fawkes mask.
My most egregious one that pissed me off back in the day was that panda one from Simon, where like it was about Chinese pandas fighting off ninja monkeys. And
No.
the general pandas were samurai, and I was like, what the
Wait,
fuck's
it's called
going on?
it's called Way of the Panda.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Because
Yeah,
this is
and
the
it-
thing, like I when I'm thinking about board games, it's like it's either going to be deeply reflective of like a culture, or the
It's
cultures
very cheap.
will be
It's very cheap.
very much used as like an aesthetic, like a cheap aesthetic to sell
Hmm.
something.
Hmm.
And
Exactly.
so going into this, I was like, I was like, I really wanted to know about like the use of cultural consultants in board games, which I guess
It's
is
not
like
great.
not great. Which I guess is not
uh,
great.
Yeah, Way of the Panda was a really interesting story. I actually complained about it. Like, I was like, why is there literally a samurai helmet on the action points board? Like, this is obviously clearly you're trying to be like, these are Chinese pandas fighting off Japanese monkey ninjas, which is weird in itself. But like,
No hate on Kung Fu Panda.
What's going
No hate
on?
on Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, but and then the game's designer actually reached out to me and was like, when I saw this design, this was not the theme. The theme was about families traveling through Poland, and the publisher changed the design to be
Well,
about
because I guess the
Selma.
aesthetic they bought the mechanics and then just changed the
Right,
aesthetic.
right.
And I guess
And
that's another pitfall in
yeah,
selling a board game to a publisher too, right?
yes, I would agree. I mean, I sold a board game to a publisher and it hasn't come out, but I got paid, so I'm not gonna complain too much.
Yeah.
Uh, at the end of the day, I will say board game cultural consultancy is not very mature. It very much so feels like, okay, we've slapped somebody onto the box so that if we get in trouble, there's somebody we can throw under the bus. It's not our fault.
Right.
Synth Von Lim does a couple of these, and it's just like sometimes like he gives the feedback, and they're just like cool, and then they don't do anything about it. I'm just like,
That's
what's
the
even the
thing.
point? What's
That's
even
the
the
thing
point?
with cultural consultants, right? They like people use them as like a stamp of approval.
Yeah.
I've told this story before on the podcast, but I've had people approach and asked if like Asians Represent has like a sticker that's like a Asians Represent approved sticker to put on their product. Like I was like, I could sell out right now and just be making bank.
Oh man, oh yeah, no, you
I
could,
could
you
sell out
could.
and be like the number one most hated Asian in tabletop.
I actually
But
did
no.
one consultancy work. I've stopped doing cultural consultancy because like this was the job that actually made me hate it. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. It was for a painting game where the characters you were playing a Chinese artists, classical from some random like non-specific old Chinese era, and I provided very, very detailed feedback with went through the rule book, how things were. Yeah, Rising Sun.
Yeah, Rising Sun was another one that because that came out after Blood Rage, and Blood Rage is, in my
Yeah,
opinion, really good. Then Rising Sun is like, oh, of all the names.
but yeah, their cover art had the Chinese artist painting on an easel, standing up, and the whole theme is traditional Chinese painting. And I was just like, this is the easiest thing you can change. Redo the cover art,
Yeah.
have them sitting down, drawing on a table. It makes no sense that they're painting on an easel.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
Like, it's just not like it would be vertical. Like they would be looking down, but they're like, we already did our box art, and they just refused to change it. And I was like, I requested to have them not have my name on the credit. I was like,
I've done that. I've done that
done.
once on an RPG project where I asked to not be credited at all. Another one I asked to be credited differently and not as a cultural consultant.
Yeah, because like I mean, like if you're not gonna change it, then what's even the point? Like I don't want to get in trouble. Like I'm not gonna be here just to be a stamp of approval, right? That's
right. Yeah, absolutely. And
the
I
point.
think that's why I'm excited to see you thriving in board games because
There's a recently with Steam Up, I'm very excited for Steam Up. The fact that game did so successfully makes me so
huge.
happy. Yeah, I think we're finally, there's not a lot of us. My team is all Asian minus the game's developer, who is one of my best friends. He's like my honorary Asian.
Yeah, I get it.
He was my best man. I was his best man at our respective weddings. Eric Zerain, shout out, best developer in the game. He's super really knowledgeable about games. And then our graphic designer is Hispanic. Artist, designer, myself, we're all Asian. Yeah, and it's just like it's I think we're the only Asians making anime board games in the West.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, it's a cool thing to say, but also like a really sad thing.
Weird thing, right?
But also a really sad thing because that means every other anime board game is just all made by white people.
I mean, they're either localizations of board games that already exist in Japan, or like, for example, the IP games. Like the Death Note IP game was designed by a white couple. The Cowboy Bebop one right now is on live on Kickstarter. You can
Oh, really? I didn't know there was a.
there's a Cowboy Bebop RPG on Kickstarter right
Oh
now,
yes, I know about the RPG.
and if you if you scroll down, and the two guys designing it, they're very happily posing and being like how long we've worked on it. It's just two white guys,
Yeah, I remember.
and I'm like,
Yeah,
it would be nice if uh, they're. Oh wait, what happened to their picture? I guess they took it down.
I guess they took it down.
It was
There's a
them.
GM screen.
Yeah, it was them standing in front of the Cowboy Bebop backdrop.
That's a whole other thing, like licensed IP. Like that adds to the cost of your game.
Mm.
Like I can't
Oh yeah.
imagine how much it would cost to make a Cowboy Bebop game.
And no shade to them. I'm just
No,
like,
no
it's
shade
just
at
like, there's
all.
just not a lot. It's just not all Asians in the industry.
Oh,
It's
they
just
have
like,
Grant Howitt working on like a test scenario. That's neat.
yeah. I mean, it looks
And
good.
Chris
And
Taylor.
yeah, it's. I just like, yeah, it's nice to be. It's weird to be the only Asian guy with an anime board game. For
Yeah,
some reason.
no, that's totally understandable. It's like it's like showing up to like with like an Asian food truck at an Asian food truck meetup, and you're the only Asian chef,
it's a little
right?
weird. It's a little.
And then
weird,
everybody's putting like pineapple in their kanji, like that one company.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever
Like,
saw that.
Cowboy Bebop in particular has been very co-opted by American culture, I think, too.
I think because of the
It's just-
music.
Yeah, it's great. I love Cowboy Bebop, and I understand why it's been co-opted.
That one makes
but it's
sense.
just- yeah, but it's just like, I mean, it's not cultural, right? It's just like, oh man, where's the Japanese people? Where's the Asians? Like, we
It's like
we
ScarJo and
brought
Ghost
this
in the
over.
Shell.
Yeah, at least in that one, they address it pretty blatantly. Like before she turned into the major, she was Asian.
She was
I watched
Asian.
it. Oh my god!
Yeah, but it still fucking sucks. It still fucking sucks, right?
And ironically, it's actually one of the best anime live action adaptations. I hate admitting it.
No,
Did you watch it?
Of course.
It's so good.
Which you know what scene
So
really
good.
you know what scene really got me when first of all the casting of the other characters are like
amazing.
is really well done.
They're really
The
good.
scene when the major is ripping up the hatch on the mech and her arms rip off
yeah.
is like so well done. Or
So many of the scenes
or the
in-
opening scene, the iconic scene where she has the
He
camo
did it like
cloak.
shot by shot, identical
It's,
to the
it's
original.
really
It's
well
great.
done.
It's like I actually think it might be the best live action anime
And, like,
adaptation.
And like
ever.
the geishas, like the mecha
Yeah.
geishas,
When they pop out,
they pop out is
Oh
so
my
well done because I
God.
think they had Weta Workshop doing it, and they're legendary.
Oh,
They also
I don't
got-
know. I don't know.
they also
I just
got into the
remember being
board-
like, "This is amazing."
Well, they also got into the board game space too. They made the Giant Killer Robots board game.
Oh, but
They
yeah,
have,
it's
like, a
just
publishing division.
and ScarJo did actually a really good job. She's a pretty good actor, all things aside. But like, I was like, damn, really? Couldn't we not have done ScarJo?
See,
It's just
That's why I thought like Pacific Rim was really good because they had like
Mhm.
they had a whole variety of actors there, and they
Yeah.
had like an Asian lead too, which was super awesome.
Uh,
But yeah, it's funny to hear that like I think we're the only Asian people making anime board games in the West. But I think that also means that like you're doing a good thing, right? You are showing people that hey, I can go and make an anime sort of themed board game, have it succeed, and inspire a whole other generation of Asian creators.
yeah,
Right?
hopefully.
'Cause
hopefully,
like
yeah.
my goal, my hope with this episode, and like I certainly learned a lot. Like I have no idea how to approach designing a board game. I think if I were to do it, I think I would base it around cards.
That's the easiest way and cheapest way to start.
It's the
for sure.
easiest way, but I like beautiful art. But now I know like a couple of things like going into board game design. Like I know I have to think about components. I know I have to find a manufacturer, and I know the components that I want in my game are going to impact, ultimately how many manufacturers I have to
Yeah.
speak to and coordinate with. I have
Well,
to think
you'll
about
speak to just
packaging.
one, but they'll
Coordinate, and
outsource it,
that
yeah.
will add to your costs though.
Yes,
That you have to think about. And then I have to think about like how I want things to be packaged. Like I have to think about the size of the box. And
If
then
you
the
want to be a
size
good
of-
publisher, at least.
if you want to be a good publisher, right? The size of the box is going to impact, A, how people can store it, right? B, the size of your components, the size of the board, and everything like that these are things that, like, I'll think about cool mechanics first, and you get people who will iterate and have really complex shit going on, and then they're gonna eventually hit a point where like, okay, well, it's gonna cost me so much money to make this. I have to go all the way back to the beginning. And I think more so than in tabletop RPGs, designing a board game, you very much have to start thinking about your like end costs at the same time you're thinking about mechanics and everything like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of designers learn that pretty quickly as soon as they start pitching to publishers, because the
Yeah.
publisher will mention it to them as like, "Hey, this game is really like this is a very simple game. It's a very light game, and you're using very expensive components, and that's not going to be a good fit." And that's something that they'll learn pretty early on.
So I gotta
Uh,
ask, because I think this is where most people are gonna have their questions. When you're looking for a manufacturer, if you want to make acrylic standees, if you want to make like charms, stickers, if
mhm.
you want to make like small print board games or card games or things like that, where do you go to like find these? You mentioned Alibaba. Do you just go on
Alibaba is
Ali?
definitely a good start. For board games, there's a couple of established ones out there that's like that everybody knows. And even if you go to like a convention like PAX Unplugged, there'll be a bunch of publishers there. They'll have booths because they want to make connections as well.
Yeah, I
Panda
remember.
Panda's really big, but they're really expensive, so
I
I tend to stray away from them.
I remember
Um,
them at my first PAX Unplugged, that where we met,
hmm.
because they were handing out samples.
They're like the Juno of board game manufacturers.
Yeah, they
They're
were like
like
handing
they
out
have a really
samples.
good they have a really big American presence, and they'll hold
Yeah,
your hand through everything. Have great customer service, but they're really expensive because of all that.
you get what you
Because they
pay
have a
for.
large American presence, they have to pay for their American staff. Long Pack is another big one. Gameland is another big one. But board game manufacturing, even outside of that, there's a bunch of small ones now that are listed on Alibaba as well. And you just have to, yeah, just have to explore. Just most of these companies will be willing to give you sample kits. Worst comes to worst, they'll ask you to pay for shipping, but they'll
Yeah,
send you a bunch of sample prototypes. Sometimes it'll be free
and I
if you're
guess
like if you like they know you're like actually an
serious.
established publisher and like you might make them money. They'll give you free samples. Not like of your game off the
No, no,
bat.
no.
They'll just
Of like sample
materials.
product. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but Alibaba is definitely the place to go.
Place to go.
It's basically a listing directory for manufacturers in
Right.
China, and
And I
it's very robust and it's very mature at this point.
and I guess have the added benefit of speaking Chinese and having
Yeah, if
someone
you
speak
speak
Chinese.
Chinese, it makes things a lot easier. So I definitely have this weird edge that like I'm close to all my manufacturing, like because once we start, because like you can talk to them via Alibaba,
Yeah.
but we usually move our conversations off onto
WeChat.
WeChat. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
and like I can just speak Chinese, we'll send each other
Yo,
memes.
WeChat is
Chinese
like
meme culture is like a
yo,
totally different game.
WeChat is like so ahead of the curve, even
Oh,
just when it comes to emojis. Like WeChat
yeah, WeChat
stickers
emojis
and
are so
emojis,
much better.
so next level.
Love
Like
WeChat
so next level.
emojis.
Like I would like my partner and I like I use WeChat a lot when I was like living in China. And like it's how I would communicate with people. And my partner and I got really accustomed to the stickers in WeChat, right? Because they're so much better. But like
Hmm.
come back to North America, nobody else uses it. And we literally were for like a good 2 years just using WeChat just for stickers. Just
They have
because they
much.
were so good there.
Facebook tried really hard to capture that feeling with Facebook Messenger because they know they have a big Chinese audience, but nobody in the West actually uses the Facebook stickers. So I'm like,
No,
oh, that's
no.
bad.
It's just
I love
WeChat is just
stickers;
so
they're
much
great.
better. And then I see, yeah, obviously, like there's Agatha in the chat talking about Line, but I know like Line is like
Line's really,
it,
I think,
Line's
popular in
big in
Japan and
Japan,
Korea.
yeah,
Japan and Korea. I've never used it personally.
because I know
Um,
you can like get somebody in your contacts by scanning phones. I see that in anime a lot. Because I totally just watched it like five
oh
times,
yeah, yeah.
reread the entire series.
I
um,
wanna give a shout out going back earlier. I
yeah,
was
let's do
saying
it.
we're the only Asians making anime board games. I will shout out to Nick Yu. He's the
Oh, Nick,
designer
you
for
D&D
Adventure
Onslaught.
Tactics. Yeah,
Nick,
Dino,
Nick.
it's been great. Adventure Tactics is not anime per se, but it's kind of anime adjacent.
I
Uh,
remember when
Adventure Tactics is
Nick
great. Love
was
that game.
showing off like Adventure Tactics early at Breakout Con.
Oh yeah, that
Um,
game is great. He's
yeah, Nick
like
is
that's just like
cool.
his like magnus opus. It's such a cool game.
I
Like
uh I want to have Nick on the show in 2023 to talk about Onslaught
nice.
because it's like
Yeah,
yo
he's going places. I'm so
Asians
excited for
doing
him.
D&D stuff I think is super cool. And honestly, Onslaught to me is like oh, it's the third edition D&D miniatures game brought back to life, and I'm here for it because I fucking love that game. Um, but that said, we're not here to talk about D&D Onslaught. We are here to sing Nikki's praises, though, because Nick is a great human being, first of
And
all.
the other shout out is Marco at Level 99 Games. Level 99 Games, they also make anime games. They're actually the company that got me into board gaming. But obviously, Brad is very white. He's great. Brad is great. I like him with person. Hilarious guy. He wears cowboy hats, so that's how white he is.
Oh, wow.
But he has an employee.
I've seen Level 99 because I remember going to Gen Con and seeing Sakura arms.
Oh, yeah. They ported that. Level 99 Games is great. I love their stuff. They're pretty much my favorite board game company because I love their board games. I got some gripes about their lack of inserts, though. Brad, stop being goddamn cheap on those non-inserts. Anyways,
so they do imports for Asian games too. Then
they do a couple of imports, but they start off with original games, and their original games were anime themed. Like, Bullet, very very anime. BattleCon, pretty anime. Exceed, very anime. But Brad, again, he wears cowboy hats. He's great, but he's not Asian. But he has an employee, Marco, Filipino, super fun guy, big anime weeb. He started working for Level 90 Games several years ago.
Oh, that's cool.
He ended up being the lead project for one of the BattleCon expansions. So
that's
he's
awesome.
working on anime games as well.
There's an anime game that I wanted to kickstart, but I wasn't sure if I would ever get to play it. Because you can't find people to play a game with, and that's the challenge of voice. This is one that was just like the aesthetic, the fact that it was a card game.
BattleCon's great. I love BattleCon. It's the board game that got me into board games. BattleCon.
This one it's called Gun and Gun.
Gun and Gun's great. Lion Wing Publishing, great guy. I don't know if the owner is Asian. I don't think so. His name is like.
Robert. It looks
Bradley.
so
His
cool.
Bradley.
It looks so cool, and
Gun and Gun's great. I just got mine.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah, I already got it. Yeah. I any game that has anime on Kickstarter, I will back it. Oh, no obligation.
I didn't buy it. Because I was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna play it. Is it like, am I gonna get the chance?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's a solid card holder. So Lion Wing, they localize. So all the games from Lion Wing are localizations from Japanese designers that succeeded in Japan, and then he localized them too.
Then they localize them. I feel like people should be doing that for TTRPGs because there's a lot of stuff in Asia.
He's doing that now. Yeah, his current Kickstarter is localizing.
Kid Victor Drive, right?
Yeah.
Because Japanese TTRPGs, because we've talked about that a lot on the podcast, are structured very differently. In like how they're written. I think
it's a very huge culture over there. It's
yeah,
crazy.
But like the most. If anybody in the audience is ever interested in seeing the difference between a Japanese TTRPG and like a Western one, look up Shinobigami. It's like a ninja one. It's like a ninja school one, and it's really cool. But the way the book is written is really different. Like the first third of the book is actually an actual play. It's a transcript of an actual play to teach you how to play.
Interesting.
But apparently that's like a thing in Japan. And that's
I didn't know that. That's
people
really
consume content.
I just know that they're not published in the same way because for the main difference that I noticed off the bat, and I think anybody would notice, is that they're actually just books. Yeah, they're not like hardcover, 11-inch like these like D&D style like tabletop RPG books. They're just regular like paperback books.
I could buy Gun and Gun right now.
You should buy Gun and Gun. It's a good game.
Or I could pre-order Genshin Tarot.
Oh yes,
which I will probably do.
You should do both.
Which I will probably do. But that said, we're running out of time.
Yes.
One thing we should do is thank our amazing patrons, the supporters of this show. We have a lot of folks who make sure that Asians Represent continues to grow, make sure that Asians Represent continues to sort of uplift Asian creators. And so there are a lot of folks that we have to thank.
Thank you.
Some of them also like publishers. Like shout out to our guardians like Brooke, Jeremy, Daisy, Arjun, Justin, Matt, Jay, and Amanda. And then our most honorable patron, the most honorable Metal Weave Games publisher, awesome people. The most honorable Valorous Games, the only Asians I know making anime TTRPGs in the West. Shout out to Valorous Games and Valor, the heroic role-playing system. Dungeon Glitch / Matt, super honorable. I'm curious to see where you will go, Matt, with this whole Twitter thing, or if you'll stay on Twitter. And the most honorable times 2 Epic Impulse, you're awesome, and Bob C. Thank you, folks, for your support. Really appreciate it. And then, like Brother Ming, thank you for coming back, returning to Asians Represent. We didn't talk about the magical girl genre. Instead, we talked about Genshin Impact, which I guess we talked about gacha. And I realized that this is the first time I publicly talked about how deeply addicted I was to Princess Connect.
That's a pretty deep gacha anime game. That's
It
not,
is-
that's not like a surface level.
There's not that's not like
It's not a casual gacha
I'm not a
game.
casual gacha addict. I was like,
Yeah.
like it's bad. Like phone stand on the desk so I could play Princess Connect. Like deeply addicted to Princess Connect, and I just replaced it with Genshin Impact. But I feel better about replacing it with Genshin Impact because that means that I can buy Genshin Tarot and not feel like,
There you go.
oh, I'm a fake Genshin fan. No, I'm a hardcore Genshin fan.
Genshin also has the best fan merch. There's once you get into Genshin fan merch, it is a rabbit. You can go to Kickstarter right now and search Genshin Impact, and there's a ton of Genshin fan products.
Just go on Etsy too. Like I've got all these posters that I need to replace. I'm like, do I just get Genshin stuff? But then like our place is just gonna be full of Genshin shit, and my partner's gonna be like, what the fuck?
Look,
Like
if you go on Kickstarter right now and search Genshin Impact, top 3 hits. There's a Genshin Impact enamel pin collection. There's a Genshin Impact Cross Eevee Pokemon dress up collection. There's Genshin Impact vests. There's a Genshin Impact jacket and cardigans Kickstarter. There are so many Genshin Impact projects on Kickstarter.
Genshin Impact knitted vests, shirts, and bucket hats.
Like I said, no other company is as pro fan merch as MiHoYo. They are actively excited that fans make fan merch.
It's a smart strategy rather than just
smart. That's why Genshin rules the world right now in terms of mobile games.
I mean, if you look at something else, like the opposite would be like Games Workshop, right? Games Workshop, they just like
very litigious.
They yes, very, but then internally they take that shotgun approach to licensing, and they'll just license Warhammer shit for anything, and it's just like terrible Warhammer games, great Warhammer games. There's just no consistent quality in their licensed products.
Let the fans take care of it. The people who love your license the most will make the best work.
I can't do enamel pins because I don't know where to put them. But I do know what I do with a Genshin Impact cardigan.
There you go. Yeah, this is a rabbit hole that
that's
you're
a rabbit hole that I'm
gonna
go down later. But that said, React is coming out on Kickstarter soon. I think if people are watching this video on the React Kickstarter page, obviously you've already backed it. And React is a huge success. I'm super excited for you because this is
thank you.
This is like, fan games are like no joke. Those are true games. Those are true games. But doing something completely new is really awesome. And I look forward to like seeing React absolutely crush it, and then seeing you eventually expand on React and do more.
Fingers crossed.
That's the goal, right? That's the goal.
No, I want this to be the reason I finally get to quit my job and go full time, So fingers crossed that we are a huge success, even though we're 1 week after the Elden Ring Kickstarter. So
yeah, but people who actually want good gameplay are gonna go to React.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, baby.
So I'm super hyped for you.
You like card battlers, you like tactics games. If you played Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic in the past and and high school, but you don't want to deal with how expensive and ridiculous it is now, this is the game for you.
You're really aging us. You're really aging us.
That's how it is. Our team is me, Eric, Chris. We're all competitive TCG players. Chris plays competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm Masters in Runeterra now, but like we just want something simple and fast, and that is actually deep, and that is React.
You took like the Full Metal Alchemist approach to Runeterra. You sacrifice a part of your wrist just to make it there. I mean, like, look, I can't. I literally can't joke about that because I'm like, I've got like a stainless steel cart next to my desk with all of my Magic the Gathering stuff. I literally played Magic for like 4 hours yesterday.
Oh man!
So like, I get it. I'm honestly super hyped for your success. I'm saying success because I know it's going to thrive.
I hope so.
I'm really hyped that you agreed to do this interview. You shared your knowledge because I, for one, am probably gonna DM you a whole bunch of stuff afterwards because I want to know.
Let's do it. I want to see Asians represent stickers. I'm gonna get one of those stickers and put it on my game.
I want
Asian approved.
Asian approved.
Definitely not racist.
Totally not racist. An Asian looked at this and said,
"Yeah, yeah."
He'd be so fun. No, I feel like that's just a mistake. My thought in my head was like, you know what? If it would be hilarious if I went around a con and I made a small batch of Asian approved stickers and just started shopping and be like, huh, I just kept going. Oh, I feel like that could go really wrong, but also like really hilariously viral.
I'm sure some publishers would take it seriously. If you put it on them, they'd like share on social media, like, "Look, guys, we did it!
Asian approved."
Yeah.
Who gave
See, I told you we have an Asian friend.
That's me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super hyped that you came on, shared your knowledge. Designing a board game is still scary to me. But
you guys are like the pillar of the Asian community and tabletop.
Oh, don't even. I just
100%.
We need more people doing stuff like this. We need more people sharing their knowledge so that other Asians can go and make their passion projects, can go and make their board game, quit their day job and do this full time, right? We need more people and look, there are other shows that do board game stuff. Like shout out to like Senfung, like Meeple Syrup Talk Shop.
I'm gonna be on Meeple Syrup as well. Let's do it.
That's like, in my mind, Asians represent as like TTRPGs, Asians, Meeple Syrup, Asians, and white people, board games. But like Senfung is like he's
designed so many games.
He has like goals that he is so smart. I'm working on a project with him right now, and I'm just like I don't feel like I belong. Senfung is so cool. But anyways, Brother Ming, thank you so much for coming on to this episode of Asians Represent. I'm hyped you've returned. Let's not wait 3 years for the next reappearance. Let's do this again in the future.
We need to come back and let's talk about anime for an hour.
Well, here's the thing. You know what? I'll say it now. I can. We're going to do it next episode, but I think I've alluded to it in a couple episodes, but we're actually coming up with a full-on just anime show on Asian.
Oh!
Yeah, we're going to do a monthly anime show.
So the best way to do an anime podcast is to only talk about anime for your first 3 episodes and then never talk about anime again.
Yeah, so the first episode is going to be really controversial, and it's going to be like, you want a Chainsaw Man? Kind of meh. I'm kidding. Okay. I love Chainsaw Man.
The manga's great, but you know what? I'm not gonna. The anime, the 3D animation stands out a little bit too much for my taste.
So I got
very controversial.
I only recently stopped getting hate on TikTok because I put out like just 30 seconds, and I was like, yeah, I just finished reading Chainsaw Man, and I literally just said, if you're curious about Chainsaw Man, don't read the manga. If you're hyped because you watch the trailers. And then people fucking attack me relentlessly on
the
that
manga's
platform.
really good.
The manga is really good, but the action is so poorly composed in the manga.
Really? I think the manga is a masterclass. It is actually
not for action. Not for action in my mind. Like I think
it's different. It has a bunch of still frames.
Still frames. It's like set pieces. There are like moments, but like the moment to moment action is so poorly done, especially in spoiler alert in 3, 2, 1, when Denji is fighting Makima in their like final fight, that those like 2 panels are so poorly drawn.
It's so much more about the surrealism
but that's not the fight. But that's not the weirdness of the fight is communicated beyond the movement. For me, it's the movement. When I look at like really well done action in a manga that is like easy to really follow and is dynamic and interesting, I'm like Spy Family. The action in Spy Family is illustrated so well. Or my favorite, Trigun.
I think I'm gonna have to disagree with you because I get where you're coming from.
Maybe we should settle this.
Bring me on for the anime episode.
When we watch the anime episode or another podcast that we also have, we'll settle this because I think this is something that needs to be done. But that said, we are at time.
Definitely running.
I know we could just keep going I know we could just keep going. I'm gonna put all of your socials, all the links to all of your stuff in the show notes. It'll be on the YouTube video description. It'll be on the audio show notes. We're gonna have show notes. If you are interested in learning more about board games and you want all of this in like written format, got to be a patron. We're gonna have show notes there with all of these tips on picking manufacturers, all the hidden costs that I certainly didn't think about, like packaging and like getting a master for a mini and all that stuff. Make sure you check that out on our Patreon. And of course, follow Brother Ming. Back,
Yes.
react, but semicolon act in the most anime way possible.
Yeah,
and also like
that's how we stand out.
pre-order Genshin Taro because we just found out that it's going to be shipping in March of next year.
Yes,
You
I'm
said?
very confident we'll ship by March.
March of next year. And honestly, for what you're getting and what it is, that's a really reasonable price in my mind.
It's a lot of art.
It's a lot of art.
art.
$100 for what you described is like, I'd pay more for that. Like, you also put a lot of the art on the website already. Like, people can look
Yes.
at the cards, which I think is really cool. I'm hyped for it, especially with how you describe the combat. It's not what I was expecting, and it's exactly what I want. But that said, I will put all of that in the show notes. Brother Ming, thank you for joining me for episode 64 of Asians Represent. There's more, but I fucked up numbering. This is like well over episode 100.
Yeah, it's a new season.
New
Season
season.
three.
Yeah.
64,
That said,
season 3.
this is the second last episode of season 3. We will see you on December 4th, I believe, for the finale and some big announcements. But we'll see you folks then. Take care and back react. Bye everyone.
Thank you.